That's what you do. I mean, that's how I got you to marry me. I dressed myself up as a cuckoo, and then I took off the hat and said, ta-da, I'm Kendall. Joke this time to start.
Hi.
It's that awkward, like, it's episode 3.
It's episode 3. I'm Logan Runquist.
Yay. I'm Kendall Runquist. I keep forgetting to do my intro, though.
This is our podcast.
Tales of Plenty.
And this is episode 3.
It is, yeah.
Here we are.
So, for anybody who hasn't been listening before, this is Tales of Plenty, like Logan said. And it's a podcast where we just tell each other stories. And we have a couple rules for each episode. Basically, rule number 1 is we can't share our stories with each other. We can only make sure that we're not telling each other the same stories. So we give like little hints to what we're doing, but we don't actually tell each other the whole story.
So that it's new as we're sitting here.
Yeah. And the second one is we have a theme every time that we tell each other stories.
Yes.
Just to keep it interesting.
Oh, yes. We're married, by the way.
BT dubs.
We're not like related. But our last names are the same because we're married. Just to clarify.
I like legit don't have like anything smart or witty to come up with for like our little intro.
Well, let's talk about our small friend that we have here today.
Oh, yeah. We could talk about that. She'll appreciate that she made it into the podcast.
Yes. Well, I don't think she understands human words because it's a dog. Not our dog. We don't have pets yet. We are newlyweds. We've only been married 3 months, so we don't have pets yet, but we are pet sitting this weekend, and we have a little doggy here.
A little cute dog named Dolly, who is currently under my right leg for some reason.
And he's sitting so strange because she's like a medium-sized short hair. I think she's a Shiba Inu mixed with something else. We're not entirely sure, or at least our friend isn't entirely sure, and we're not either.
She was a rescue.
Yeah, and she's very cute.
But I do have to sit very strange right now because she wants attention and to be a part of what we're doing right now.
She also might be chewing on your chair leg. Oh, no.
She's just licking vigorously.
She's just licking it. Great.
So we should probably jump into what our actual theme was.
Yes. Well, did we have any other orders of business? We're on Spotify now. I don't know if we announced that last week, but when I was searching Spotify today for another podcast to listen to, I checked on ours and we are live on Spotify.
And Google Podcast.
Oh, did we finally?
See.
Oh, sweet.
And Apple Podcasts.
Yes. I think Apple was first out of our big timers.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I think Apple was first, Google.
Stitcher was first, actually.
Oh,
Stitcher was like, yeah, you got a podcast, whatever. We can just throw it up right now.
We want ya.
They don't care at all. Everybody else, you actually have to go through like a process they review your podcast. We got listened to twice by Apple before it was actually posted live.
Yeah, it was kind of strange.
We're hosted by Buzzsprout. Not sponsored. We're just using them as a hosting service.
Yeah, not sponsored.
And yeah, it records stats, and it was 2 views in the middle of the day, and I kept trying to figure out what was going on because I couldn't even find our podcast.
You were like, was it you? I'm like, no.
So, but yeah, it looks like it was actually being reviewed at the time, which was kind of cool. So if you're listening, Apple Podcast employee that reviewed our podcast and thought it was appropriate to put it on here, thank you.
Cheers, thanks.
And I hope you were still listening and didn't think it sucked.
And thank you for everyone who has rated and reviewed us so far. We thank you so much. We assume that you're not our immediate family members. If you are, thank you anyway. And if you're not, we still thank you.
Yeah, we've gotten 2 reviews so far on Apple, which was really exciting to actually see some reviews in. It's very exciting. Yes,
if you like what you're hearing, or if you don't like, let us know. We have all of those platforms, social media, Facebook, Instagram, @Tales of Plenty. We have an email too, if you have any thoughts, comments, concerns.
Yeah, so at the end of this episode, we're going to start trying to do a thing where we will let everyone know what our theme is for next episode.
So it's going to be, we'll give you the next 3 themes in no particular order. If you have any personal stories that you would like us to read,
If you can send us an email at talesofplenty@outlook.com. And if you want us to actually mention your story in our podcast episode, then go ahead and let us know that we can use it in your email. Tell us a story, and like I mentioned in some previous episodes, be sure to add your name or your handle, whatever you want to be referred to as. Or if you don't, we'll just keep it anonymous or make up a name. We'll see.
Bob Joe, Jimmy John, Bob Smith. We're gonna have to cut so much out of this episode already.
We're coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
It's been a long day.
It's been a strange week.
It's been a very strange week.
We just got back from a trip, so I think affects productivity too. At least for me, whenever I come back from a vacation, a trip, a hiatus of any kind, change of scenery, coming back to your original stuff is sometimes jarring and hard.
Yeah, especially in this kind of environment that we're in now, coming back from, because we flew because we had to. Very strange experience. Yeah. Wasn't like terrible, but it was a strange experience after quarantining for so many months.
Yeah.
To all of a sudden be exposed to so many people. It was a very strange experience. I keep saying that. Anyway.
Just a sign of the times, I guess.
Okay, we should probably get into our theme now.
Okay.
It's probably been like 10 minutes.
Mr. Runquist, tell me what our theme is this week.
So the theme of our podcast for this episode is Greek mythology.
Greek mythology.
Getting all up in some Zeus and other gods.
Yep.
Except I'm not actually talking about Zeus.
Neither am I.
And I don't actually know what you're talking about.
I think I went first last week.
Yeah, it's
so you go
been
first.
kind of tradition to have you go. But okay, I can start this time.
Let's change it up. Episode 3, here we come, switching it up.
We're getting weird in episode 3.
Getting weird. I'm drinking a Truly and burping a lot, so we're going to cut all those out.
We came back hot off of a trip.
Yep. And it's getting weird. What if we have to redo this whole thing?
No, I'll be fine.
What if we listen to it and it sucks?
So, like I said, we're doing Greek mythology. So we both... That was one of the strangest things I've ever seen. What was that?
I'm trying to get you pumped. I'm like flailing my arms around.
I'm just looking at my iPad on my notes, and next thing I look up, and Logan's flinging every possible limb she could.
I'm trying to get you pumped.
I am pumped.
Okay, good.
I'm talking about the manliest man of all the mans.
You.
No.
Aw.
I'm talking about Hercules.
Hercules.
Except if we're going strictly off of Greek mythology, it's actually Heracles.
Oh, thank you. What's Hercules? Is that Roman?
Yeah, that's Roman.
Oh.
So, yeah, I think the movie kind of mashed up a lot of Roman and Greek mythology together. Because his dad was Zeus, but Zeus is somebody else. Yeah, it's not Zeus, though. He's a different person.
Right.
In Roman mythology.
Wow. Good one, babe. Yeah, school me.
Hera is also not his mother, but we'll get into that in a second.
What are your sources?
GreekMythology.com.
Oh, give it to me. What do you say, Dolly? She's asleep.
All right, we can get into it. So, my first story that I'm going to tell you is about Heracles. And like I said, he is the manliest man of all the mans that ever was a man.
Yes. Thank you.
At least back in ancient times. I mean, he was supposed to be like the man.
Right.
In Greek mythology.
Who is it today? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
Probably. He is who I think is the manliest man.
He's pretty
show. Besides just the muscles.
Yeah.
He's killing it right now.
Killing it.
Yeah. I won't get into that, but he is slaying. He is a half god because his father was Zeus, but his mother was actually a mortal by the name of Alcmene. Alcmene. She was a mortal woman and the granddaughter of Perseus.
Oh.
And the way that happened was Zeus pretended to actually be Alcmene's husband and disguised. If you go into Greek mythology, Zeus is kind of like Loki. He disguises himself a lot as other creatures and people.
Zeus is a lot.
Yeah.
He's just a big personality. Got a lot going on.
Zeus disguised himself as Alcmene's husband and slept with her. And that same day, her real husband also slept with her. So she was getting it that day.
She's getting it, girl.
two in one day. She might have been surprised by her husband. She's like, man, where'd this come from?
Did she notice, like, honey, you're so much taller and glowing?
No, he transformed into her husband.
Oh, okay. Because, in, like, the Disney movie, they're a different color if they're a god. Like, they're shinier.
This isn't the Disney movie version, trust me.
All right.
It gets interesting.
Oh, are we taking it out of PG?
Well,
I guess we already
I'll
did.
try to keep it PG. Yeah. So she got pregnant and gave birth to twins.
Cool.
And Hera, Zeus's wife, out of spite because he had an affair, which he does several times in Greek mythology, decided to send 2 snakes to the twins' cribs to kill the babies.
Oh.
So she just went ahead and sent 2 of them because she wasn't actually sure which one was Zeus's son, because she couldn't tell, even though she's a goddess, for whatever reason. I guess their powers are limited.
I suppose.
And the son that wasn't Zeus's started crying in the crib.
Oh.
But Heracles ended up strangling the snakes immediately.
Nice.
Even though he was a baby.
Baby.
Yep. And thus began the adventures of Heracles.
I am trying to, like, track a little bit with the Disney movie in my head.
Yeah, I know. I was doing
Slightly.
that too when I was reading this.
Because he was a super cute animated baby.
Yeah, he was
Do you
cute.
remember his little chin?
Yeah.
So cute.
I think that part is in the movie. It's like the 2 like little devil things. Try
Yeah.
to get them.
He does grab something.
Yeah, he
and,
grabs
like,
both of
pull
them
on
and
it.
like not strangles them, but like bounces
Plays
them
with
around.
them. And they're all like, oh no.
And even before all that happened, Hera actually convinced Zeus to name the next child born in the house of Perseus. So, such as Alcmene, because she was going to be giving birth soon. She convinced Zeus to name the next child born in the house of Perseus to be a high king. And the next one born after that one would be a servant to that high king.
Ooh.
And then she purposely delayed the birth of Heracles to make sure that he was going to be a servant to the future high king that was born.
Oh.
Which we will get into later.
Great.
Growing up, Heracles had a lot of mentors that trained him in many different things, such as archery, boxing, riding, driving chariots. So he got his driver's license.
Nice.
Wrestling, boxing, I think I mentioned, and just many, many other talents. And by 18, his adventures had already begun. The first thing he did was actually slay the lion of Cithaeron
Cool.
after hunting it for 50 days.
Wow.
He finally found it, slayed it, and that became his iconic pelt that he wore. And he also used, in all the lore, he uses the lion's head and the lion's scalp as his helmet.
I think there was a part where he put on a lion's skin in the movie.
Oh,
And it was supposed to allude to Scar from Lion King, if I remember correctly. Any big Disney fans out there, let me know if I'm right or wrong, but I think I'm right.
Yeah,
I'm thinking I'm right.
I think I do remember that. So impressed by this, a guy named Thespius, who was the king of Thespia.
As you do.
Yeah. I mean, why would you not name the place that you're ruling after yourself?
My name's Jim, and my kingdom is...
James.
And I rule over the kingdom of James.
He was so impressed by this. Keep in mind, Heracles is 18 at the time, and he had just slain the lion. The king was so impressed by this that he wanted all of his daughters to have a child by him.
Heyo.
So every night, he sent a different daughter to Heracles' bed,
Okay.
and Heracles apparently thought it was the same person every time, which...
Wait.
Okay.
Did they all look the same?
I don't know. I guess it was dark, and they all moved exactly the same way.
And they sounded exactly
And
the
sounded
same
the
when they
same.
talked? Okay.
Or they didn't do a lot of talking. I don't know.
Wow.
But anyway, so he did this every night to get all of his daughters pregnant by
many?
Heracles for 50 nights.
What?
He had $50.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So he slays a lion and then he gets 50 women pregnant.
Solid.
And he's 18.
Do they all become pregnant like on that one time?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the manliest man of all the mans.
I suppose.
It only takes one time.
I guess. Greek mythology, man.
So after this, he kind of took off and went on to travel around some more. And he eventually encounters heralds of King Erginus, who were going to collect the annual Theban tribute of 100 cows. Heracles, apparently annoyed by this, cuts off all of the heralds' ears, noses, and hands and handed them back to them and said, take that back as tribute.
What a jerk move.
Which I guess they did because the king got angry by this because I guess he found out. So he gathered his whole army and marched against Thebes. In which response, Heracles took out the entire army and killed King Erginus.
Okay.
Again, he's 18.
I think he might have a little bit of anger management problem.
The Theban king, as thanks, gave his daughter Megara to Heracles.
Meg!
Yes. Meg.
Girl. Here she is.
And he sires many more children with her. So he has several children with Megara. But Hera strikes Heracles with madness, and he ends up killing all of his children.
Oh my gosh.
So to purge himself of this sin, because he doesn't really know it's Hera, he speaks to some oracles that tell him that he must serve Eurystheus for 12 years and carry out all the tasks that he would be asked to carry out by this king. Who, King Eurystheus, is the High King, which is a cousin of Heracles as well, because he was born in the house of Perseus.
Right.
So now the prophecy has kind of come true that he will be serving the High King.
Gotcha.
And this leads to what are the most famous exploits of Heracles, which is his 12 labors.
Yes.
Which, unfortunately, because of time, I can't dig in too deeply. Maybe we'll do an episode at one point where we actually talk about the labors specifically.
Sure.
But unfortunately, I can't get into too much detail, so I'll just kind of highlight them.
Highlight them.
So it was initially 10 labors that he was asked to do. He was first asked to kill the Nemean lion, to kill the Lernaean hydra.
Ah, the Hydra.
Yeah, to capture the Cernian hind, to capture the Ermathian boar. I swear every name is just getting longer.
Greek, man. It's all Greek to me.
To clean the stables of Augeas in one day, to kill the Stymphalian birds, to capture the Cretan bull, to steal the mares of Diomedes, and to steal the girdle of the queen of the Amazons, Hippolyta.
Oh, the girdle. So like her underwear, sort of? Okay.
Basically.
The Amazons. Where Wonder Woman is supposedly from, according to Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
Question mark.
She's an Amazon.
Yeah. My girl Gal Gadot. I love her.
Knew that was coming.
My girl.
And lastly, his 10th labor was to steal the cattle of the monster Gurion.
It's a lot of stealing going on.
Yeah, it really was.
Prove your worth.
Stealing and killing.
Steal me 18 million things.
So after the 10 were completed, Eurystheus gave him 2 more tasks because he said that the 2nd and the 5th he didn't really do on his own. And just to remind you, the 2nd was the Hydra and the 5th was cleaning the stables in one day. So the 2nd one, which was the Hydra, he actually had help from Iolaus to slay the Hydra. And the 5th one, where he had to clean the stables, he did that by rerouting the Alpheus and Peneus rivers, which
Nice.
in my mind counts as being done. I don't know why the king thought that that didn't count, because I can't do that.
Yeah.
Only the manliest man of all the mans can do that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
he said no. That doesn't count.
Yeah, the king said that doesn't count. So he gave him 2 more tasks.
What a butthead.
Which were to steal, again, stealing.
Bro.
The Hesperidian apples. And to capture Cerberus.
Ooh.
The guardian of the underworld.
Ooh. This king sounds like a jerk.
Yeah.
He's just pulling stuff out of his butt now.
He was. I guess it was just like, hey, can you do this ridiculous, impossible task and just like die? I guess.
Bring me a shrubbery. Cut a tree down with this herring. That's what this sounds like.
Another shrubbery.
Good stuff.
So I'm really bummed that I don't have enough time to really get into those because that would be fun to talk about. But anyway, he did actually, complete those tasks still. And then the king, released him from his servitude. He went on to carry out many more deeds, which for the sake of time, again, won't really get into. But if you do like Heracles, I highly encourage you to check out that website, GreekMythology.com. A lot of really good information on there. Eventually, he married Deianira, who shortly after they got married, this guy has bad luck with women.
Bro.
She was attacked by the centaur Nessus. And Heracles ended up shooting Nessus with arrows poisoned by the blood of the Hydra. Mm. And in his dying breath, he convinced Deianira to take his now poisoned shirt that was blood. It was covered in blood, which was also covered in all the poison of the Hydra. And he said to give it to Heracles when she was thinking that he was going to be unfaithful to her.
Hey, by the way, take this thing, and when you think he's going to cheat on you.
Yeah.
Give it to him. As a little present.
So that he dies, basically.
A little prezi. It'll kill him, but a little present.
So she keeps it for many years, but eventually she does believe that he is being unfaithful. So she gives the shirt to him to wear, and he puts it on.
He's like, honey, what an interesting pattern this has. Is this blood? What color is this?
No, I just dyed it red.
Oh, that's interesting. Why do I
like
feel
kind of really stiff, but don't worry about it.
Why does it smell awful and it's gooey? And I'm tingly now.
So it starts to eat up his flesh.
Ew.
And he's in a tremendous amount of pain. So he still manages to build himself his own funeral pyre. And he tries to convince people to light it because he doesn't want to light it. And eventually convinces a person named Poeas to light it. And as thanks, Heracles gives him his bow and arrows. Mm. And Heracles actually ascends to Olympus and becomes a deity.
Sweet.
And gets married to Hebe, the goddess of eternal youth.
I bet she's youthful looking.
And gains immortality.
Nice.
So he does go out a hero and become a god. Because he is the manliest man of all the mans.
Yes. But in a different way than Disney told us.
Yes.
I feel a little lied to.
I mean, like, parts of it lined up. Parts of it they had to scrub because, it's Disney.
True.
And not true ancient Greek. So anyway, yeah, that was the story of Heracles. Kind of Cliff Notes version, but that was the story of Heracles.
Great job, babe. Mm-hmm. That was awesome.
So who are you telling me about?
My turn?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to tell you the tale of Hades and Persephone. That's one myth. Their myth is kind of intertwined.
Okay.
So my sources are Ancient History Encyclopedia.au and thenationalherald.com. I found this lovely website, Ancient History Encyclopedia.au, and this adorable little lady with the cutest Australian accent told me everything I needed to know about Hades and Persephone, and I just loved it. If I could mimic the Australian accent, I would love to do so. Unfortunately, I cannot. But just know that it was very, very cute. And I wanted to do this one because we were in the Denver airport and I saw that Stephanie Meyer's new Midnight Sun, hi all you Twihards, Twilight readers, Midnight Sun is out. Hi everybody. I didn't buy it yet. I might wait for my birthday to buy it. But there's a pomegranate on the front. And I knew...
And it looks disgusting.
Yes. Well, The pomegranate, actually, I kind of Googled it, and I think the reason why they put that on the cover is because they didn't want to put an anatomical heart on the cover, because that's kind of gross.
Oh.
But the pomegranate in sort of olden medicine times was the symbol of like heart healthcare and that kind of stuff. That's like their symbol, because it actually has chambers and antechambers like the heart does. So that's kind of why it looks gross on that cover. It's because it's meant to look like a heart without being actually. All that to say, saw that cover of the book, and I was like, oh my gosh, pomegranate Persephone. I want to research it. I kind of remembered what it was about, but I wanted to re-research it. So, disclaimer, kind of like Kendall's, there's so much information on these myths and so many different versions throughout the ages. I stuck to just a few sources and I condensed it in order to keep it concise for this podcast. So, I wanted to define the word myth for you, just so that we have it.
Okay.
The word myth is a traditional story, especially one concerning early history of a people or explaining some natural or social phenomenon, and typically involving supernatural beings or events. So I will explain why I told you that definition kind of at the end, because it seems a little bit random. But Persephone was the Greek goddess of vegetation, especially grain, and she was also the wife of Hades, with whom she ruled the underworld. According to mythology, Hades fell in love with beautiful Persephone when he saw her picking flowers one day in a meadow. And I think it was lilies, which symbolize virginity and beauty. And he was like, yo, girl, you hot. And he kind of went boink and picked her up, put her in his pocket.
Picked Persephone up?
Picked her up, put him, like, he either carried her, or some myths say he kind of like put her away, tucked her away in like a pocket or something, and flew down to the underworld against her will. Am I right? She's just chilling. And he's like, girl, you hot. Let's go.
Put you in my pocket here and we'll go down to the underworld and just hang out.
Just hang out. Maybe Netflix and chill a little. In this particular, the AU website said he carried her off in his chariot to live with him in the dark underworld. In other accounts, her father Zeus had given consent to the abduction. He's like, yeah, man, you can have her. Interesting enough, the location of the crime is traditionally placed in either Sicily or Asia. So that's
where she was taken?
Yeah. So people kind of attribute one or the other of those locations as like, this is where she was actually taken. And in both those places, I believe there's temples and shrines and stuff. Not just in Greece, which there is temples to Persephone and Hades in Greece, other locations too. Meanwhile, her mom Demeter searched the earth for her long-lost daughter, and though Hermes told her of her daughter's fate, like, she's not here anymore, she was taken, sorry, she nevertheless continued her wanderings, just kind of wandered around the earth looking for her. Woe is me, what am I going to do without her? How do I get her back? Demeter created a great drought to convince the other gods to release Persephone from Hades. As the drought claimed even more victims, Zeus finally sent Hermes to persuade Hades to release his ill-gotten bride. Before giving her up, though, the wily Hades put a pomegranate seed in the girl's mouth, knowing its divine taste would compel her to return to him and stay captive forever. In other versions of the myth, Persephone could have been released had she not eaten anything in the underworld during her captivity. But at the last moment, again, he gave her this pomegranate seed. So apparently, I guess it's similar to in Christianity with the Garden of Eden and eating the apple from the tree of knowledge. Eating something in a heavenly realm is a no-no. Either elicits bad vibes or a curse or a something. In this particular myth, it was granted her sort of not damnation, but that she was stuck in the underworld.
So she had to stay with him.
Right. But because the mom upstairs is like, I'm going to kill everybody on this planet, so you give me my daughter back. As a compromise, it was decided that Persephone would be released, but she would have to return to Hades for 1/2 of the year, or 1/3 in some accounts. So why I told you the definition of myth was because the story of Hades and Persephone was perhaps symbolic of the changing of the seasons and the perennial change from life to death to life once more. or in other words, the changes from summer to winter and the return to life in spring as seen in agriculture. So the Greeks wanted something to help them understand why the seasons changed. And this was a way to kind of attribute understanding for them with the gods and goddesses that they understood. That makes sense why it snows and why spring comes and things like that. Another interpretation of the Persephone myth may be that it represents when the Greeks stored their grain underground for part of the year in order to protect it from the summer heat. So again, she goes to the underworld. The Greeks store the grain.
Yeah.
So I also kind of wanted to talk about pomegranates for a sec.
Okay.
I'm a pomegranate fan. I love them. Delicious. Messy, but good. Still in Greek culture, the pomegranate symbolizes fertility, marriage and unions, and good luck. The pomegranate is hung above the front door of the home for 12 days, for the 12 days of Christmas in some areas of Greece. The fruit is also placed on the table at Christmas time and other festivals around this time of year. On New Year's Eve, the family gathers outside, and when the clock strikes midnight, a pomegranate is rolled and smacked on the front door of the house. Like smack. People can either do it with their hands, like throw it, or use a hammer or a baseball bat or something. But the more seeds that scatter on the floor, the luckier the new year will be. Smashing the pomegranate on the ground is also part of traditional weddings. The scattering seeds are thought to bring good luck and many children to the newlyweds.
Why didn't we do that at our wedding?
Good question. Why didn't we?
I could have hucked a pomegranate at something.
You should have just thrown a pomegranate just at the ground. Just
at the pastor.
No.
It's traditional Greek.
We're not Greek Orthodox. Kevin would not have appreciated.
No.
So retaining their ancient connection to the afterlife, the seeds are also used to decorate for funerals and memorial services in the Greek Orthodox Church. So marriages, unions, funerals, celebrations, Christmas, pomegranates all year long.
I really want to just go to a Greek Orthodox wedding now with a bag full of pomegranates and go, you just got married!
You got married!
And just start hucking pomegranates everywhere.
It's just interesting because, I mean, I've seen the Hollywood adaptations like My Big Fat Greek Wedding and other like Greek weddings.
You don't see that in those.
No, you do see the plate smashing.
Yeah.
And the opa.
But no pomegranates.
And the ouzo. So much ouzo. But I have yet to see pomegranates in the Hollywood adaptation. So, I don't know. Interesting. I don't know how accurate that is in relation to 2020. I don't know if people do that now still, or if this is a little dated. That's my story.
Cool. Well, that was interesting.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you about Hera.
Yay.
I thought I might keep it going, kind of in the same vein.
I was going to say you mentioned her earlier.
Yeah. You're going to get a little bit more of her.
Give it to me.
So Hera was the wife of Zeus, as I mentioned, and the queen of Olympus. She was considered the goddess of marriage, family, and welfare of women and children. And one thing that I thought was actually really interesting is Hera is actually a title. It's not her name.
Oh.
It translates to lady or mistress. Apparently, she's so ancient that they don't know what her real name is.
Wow.
Because she was born from the Titans. So it goes, Titans originally ruled over, they were the gods before the Olympians, and the Olympians took over from the Titans. They like overthrew them.
Yeah.
And she was the daughter of the Titans Cronus and Rhea.
Oh.
So as the guardian marriage, it was her duty to be a faithful wife because that was everything that she represented.
Even though she's a goddess?
Yeah. Even though her, husband is also extremely unfaithful.
Yeah. I mean, double standard much?
Yeah, a little bit.
Hello?
So, and she was considered a very beautiful goddess as well. And despite her beauty, not many men and no gods dared lay a hand on her because bad things would happen. And she was also, the goddess of marriage. So she was supposed to be very, very faithful.
Right. She'd cut their penises off.
Yeah.
Probably.
And she had 4 children with Zeus. Those children are Ares, Alethea, Hebe, who ended up being Heracles' wife, and Hephaestus. So Zeus had tricked Hera into marriage by transforming into a distressed cuckoo.
I'm distressed.
And transformed back when she took it to her breast to warm it.
As you do.
Yeah. That's the warmest place on a woman's body, right?
Probably. There or under the armpit, scientifically speaking.
I feel like that'd be a little weird. Under the armpit. He would probably not appreciate transforming back to himself and going,
I'm under your armpit. I just find it interesting that she's immediately like, oh, are you cold? Oh, come here.
She ended up being so ashamed of this that she agreed to marry him.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's what you do. I mean, that's how I got you to marry me. I dressed myself up as a cuckoo, and then I took off the hat and said, ta-da, I'm Kendall. And then you're like, oh my gosh, how dare you? I'm going to marry you.
I'm so embarrassed. So was he still a bird? And then just all of a sudden, like, she looked down again and he was like, just kidding, I'm a guy.
Yeah, he just was like, hey,
what up?
I'm Zeus. How you doing?
So he must have been really little because you showed me a picture of what it looked like.
It's a small
They're really
bird.
Cute. So was he also that big, like really, really little?
Yeah, and then he turned into like, Zeus.
Hey, baby.
Yep. Well, no, I think he turned into full-size Zeus.
Hey, baby.
There you go.
That's as deep as I can go.
So she married him, but Zeus was a pretty brutish and cruel person. Mm. So she plotted a scheme against him with Poseidon, Athena, and some other gods. Mm. She ended up drugging Zeus, and they bound him to his bed and stole his thunderbolt, which was his weapon.
Nice. Hey, you guys, I need you for a sec. We're going to poison my husband.
Apparently.
Just a normal Thursday.
And chain him to the bed and steal his thunderbolt.
And they're all like, seems legit.
So he did manage to untie himself, and in his fury, he ended up hanging Hera from the sky using golden chains.
So rude.
Very rude.
He just needs to calm down.
And in order to get down, she had to swear to never rebel against Zeus again.
I bet while she said that, it was a lot of eye rolling.
Probably.
I guess I'll never rebel against you.
So instead, she ended up just taking her anger out on Zeus's lovers and offspring. And a few examples of that is she tricked Zeus to reveal himself in all his glory to a woman named Semele.
But not naked.
No. So what that actually means is he revealed himself as Zeus, the god, and not like a human, which, according to the Greek mythology, is so overwhelming to a mortal person that she incinerated. Yeah, she just up and went poof.
It's like that lady in Supernatural that she looked at the angels.
Yes.
And then her eyes got burned out.
Yeah. Except her whole body got burned out.
Toasty. What's that one line from The Mask that you say all the time?
Smoking.
Nice. I actually thought it was Frosty, so.
Frosty. No, it's smoky.
Beautiful.
Another example is she turned a woman named Callisto into a bear after Callisto gave birth to Zeus's child Arcus. And later on, she was still a bear, and her son Arcus was about to kill her when Zeus intervened and turned her into Ursa Major and Minor.
Oh my god!
Or them into Ursa Major and Minor.
The constellations.
Yep.
That's cool.
So, a little segue.
It gives me Brave vibes, like the movie.
Yeah.
Mom, you're a bear. Through the whole movie.
And the last one that I mentioned before was that she delayed the birth of Heracles so that he wouldn't become the high king. He'd become the servant and have to go through his 12 labors.
What if you're like 9 months pregnant and then somebody comes along and is like, I'm going to delay you? Just like a couple weeks.
I think it was like 9 days.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that.
Okay, good.
It wasn't like, hey, this pregnancy's going to take 12 months. Sorry.
Oh. It's like, you know you're ready to go right now, but I'm just going to turn your clock back a little bit, give you an extra couple of months. Why don't you just think about this? That would suck.
I'm trying not to quote Office things, but I just remembered another Office quote.
Give it to me.
It's when Michael finds out that Jim and Pam are pregnant, and he's like, how long have you known? And he's like, a week, a month, a year. One of my favorite quotes of all time in that is he's like, did you pee on a stick? And Jim's like, I did. It was inconclusive. I crack up so hard every time at that.
Oh, if Dolly could laugh, she would laugh at you.
So yeah, that was kind of just a little bit about Hera. She was kind of scornful, but she also got the short end of the stick a lot.
Sounds like it.
So, I don't know, she kind of had to play second fiddle a lot from what I read to a lot of other women.
Sounds like her husband was a butthead.
Yeah, even though she's supposed to be the goddess of marriage and be this perfect marriage and stuff like that, or perfect wife. But she had a rough time because Zeus was kind of a dick and slept with a lot of other women.
It's just interesting because I've always found myth to be strange because they give gods almost human-like foibles and qualities like that. So in Greek myth, like the gods aren't perfect. Like Zeus is clearly a fornicator.
Yeah.
And Hera, even though she's supposed to be the goddess of marriage, like her marriage sucks.
Yeah.
And she's got a jerk butt as a husband and a philanderer.
Yeah.
So it's just, Dolly is sniffing my foot. I feel so violated right now. Concentrate. Oh.
She's done.
Thank you.
All right. What's your story?
My second tale, I'm going to tell you about Achilles.
Okay.
Even though a lot of people probably know a little bit about this one, and I'm sure you know this one, but it's one of my personal faves. Did you give your sources for your last one?
I think so.
Was it the same website?
GreekMythology.com.
Okay. I surprisingly didn't see that when I was researching. Anyway, so my sources again are Ancient History, Encyclopedia.au, and Britannica.com. But I did want to say that the cute little lady who gave the talk about my last one, we pronounced it Demeter, but she would pronounce it Demeter, which was so much better sounding than how we say it. But again, there's so much information like with your Heracles that I stuck to these two sources to prevent confusion. Achilles was born to mortal king Peleus and Thetis, not an F, with a TH.
Fetus?
Thetis, like thespian with a TH. Thetis was a sea nymph. It didn't say why she does this next act, but his mother, in order to make her son immortal, held him over a divine fire, or in some accounts, the river Styx. So it didn't say why. She just decided to want her son to be immortal for funsies.
I mean, isn't that what every mother tries to do for their child?
I mean,
Make them immortal
I suppose.
by dipping them in fire.
It's either fire or I've always heard the river Styx.
Yeah, I've never heard the divine fire one.
Yeah.
I've only heard the river Styx one.
Yeah. So apparently in the account with the divine fire, you would dip whatever object, in this case being a child, in this divine fire, and it would come out and just be chill and be good. And be like, oh, hey mom, I can't die, and I'm a baby. So anyway, so the mom wants to...
Probably sit back a little bit.
The mom, in this account, I'm going to tell it as if the river Styx. So the baby was suspended by his heels. So she's got him by the two ankles, right?
Right.
So his head's like in the water. So she dunks. And so the only part of his body that remained mortal flesh was his heel. And this would obviously ultimately be Achilles' weakness and would lead to his downfall. But I have to let you know that my mythology teacher in the 8th grade taught us this myth. And she would get really emphatic when she was telling this. And she would say, she didn't do the flip and dip. The flip and dip. And I can't remember what fast food that is. It's like a corn dog or like it's some kind of fast food that does the flip and dip.
Oh, okay.
Like a chicken tenders or something. But basically she was saying if she would have taken him by the heels, then flipped him up, grabbed him by the head, and then kind of dunked his little feet in, he would have been fine.
Yep.
So whenever my mythology teacher, we're still friends on Facebook, and it's been around 15 years since I've been in her class now, and we're still friends on Facebook. And whenever I hear this myth, I always just hear in the back of my head, the flip and dip. So anyway, if she would have done that, Achilles' problem would have been solved. But unfortunately, she didn't. She was just like, he's fine. We'll just leave it. So Thetis, knowing her son was fated to a glorious but short life due to her mistake, tried to hide Achilles away from the world. So I guess she wasn't like, I just made that up. She was like, let's hide him away to try to make sure he doesn't die on accident by tripping over something and hitting his heel and going, oh no, and die. So she hid him, and the boy was raised on an island with a royal family, and even some accounts he was disguised as a girl. Other accounts credit his education that he would later get to Chiron, the wise centaur who also included Hercules in his role of pupils. So that kind of made me think, like, centaur. I know it was different in the Disney movie, but could this be Phil? Phil in the Disney movie? I mean, he was like a satyr.
Yeah, he was a satyr, but not a centaur.
But you know what I'm saying? Disney could have adapted that. Could have been Phil, who we're talking about. Anyway, fast forward a little bit, and Achilles is now older and ready to fight in battle. So the majority of our knowledge concerning Achilles in battle is Homer's account of the Trojan War in the Iliad. So I'm going to talk about the Trojan War just a little bit. Early on in the book, Odysseus, king of Ithaca, is sent on a mission to find Achilles and persuade him to participate in the coming war between the Greeks and the Trojans, because he knew that Achilles trained as a great warrior with quote-unquote Phil. And Odysseus was a really good negotiator, and with Achilles' thirst for glory, Odysseus convinced Achilles to fight. The siege of Troy lasted for 10 years, and during this time, Achilles excelled in battle and sacked no less than 23 cities in the surrounding area. I think kind of similar to your Heracles. He had to have been like 18, 20, like young.
Yeah.
Did you sack 23 cities when you were 18?
I actually sacked 26, so he's kind of slacking.
Yo! Well, I sacked 30, okay? Bye. Things were looking pretty good for the Greeks at this point in the war, because he's just killing it. Literally killing people. But their fortunes changed for the worse when Agamemnon, king of Mycenae and leader of the Greek forces, had a fight with Achilles and forced him to withdraw from the conflict. The quarrel started after Achilles had abducted 2 women from the opposing side. In one of his raids, he just pillaged this town and was like, ladies, come with me. And like a lot of fights, these 2 men fought over these poor ladies. There was a lot of like in-depth stuff about it. I kind of just glossed over it. There's some kind of dirty things. Anyway, so they're fighting about these ladies and they get mad. And Achilles is cast off by the king. Without their great warrior, the other side, the Trojans, started gaining ground on the Greeks and reaching dangerously close to the walls of the Achaean camp in their attacks and managing to start a fire amongst their ships. So they're gaining ground and everybody's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? In their hour of danger, Achilles' best friend, Patroclus, pleaded with him to re-enter the battle. Achilles agreed, but only to lead, not to fight. So he gave his friend his armor and made his friend promise only to engage in defensive action and not to pursue the Trojans back to Troy. When the Trojans saw the armored Patroclus, they thought that Achilles had re-entered the war and they freaked out. They're like, oh my gosh, he's here, we're all gonna die. Patroclus saw them retreat, and now that makes him think that he's invincible.
So of course he does follow them.
Yeah, so he ignores Achilles' advice. He chased after the fleeing Trojans, killing many, and eventually reached the walls of Troy. Unfortunately for him, the god Apollo decided at that moment to intervene in the war and kill him. The gods, again, had similar human qualities, and they're just like, I think I'll intervene now. Now seems like a fun time.
Right.
When Achilles discovered the death of his friend, he was mad with rage. And now he would fight and get revenge for the death of his friend. He immediately asked his mother Thetis to provide him new armor, and she enlisted Hephaestus. the god of metallurgy, to forge the most magnificent armor ever made. Homer describes the armor in great detail. The gleaming shield depicted all manners of scenes in gold, silver, and enamel. The coverings were in shining tin, and the helmet a crest of gold. So think of like the most gorgeous like crown jewels you've ever seen in armored form. And on a dude. So Achilles is now decked out with his divine armor and livid with rage. He took to the battlefield once more and went on a killing spree, sending a long line of Trojans down to Hades. See ya. Peace. The war rumbled on and Achilles continued to dominate. However, just as his mother had feared, despite winning glory and renown, our hero was to be cut down in his prime. Once more, it was Apollo who intervened in man's affairs and directed an arrow let loose by Paris, who you mentioned earlier, the Trojan prince, who had started the war in the first place by abducting fair Helen. As we all know, the face that launched 1,000 ships, Helen of Troy. Of course, the arrow hit the only vulnerable place, the heel. So the magnificent armor was pierced at the heel, and Achilles was then sent down to Hades. That armor was given to Odysseus, whose ruse of the wooden horse would finally bring an end to the siege and victory for the Greeks. Just as a final note, Achilles is a popular subject in ancient Greek art, appearing on vases from all over Greece, from Athens to Mykonos, scenes on black and red pottery from the 7th to the 5th century BCE. Perhaps the most celebrated example is a black figure amphora dating from 350 BCE and now in the Vatican Museum, which this is what a lot of people think about when you think about ancient Greek art, is this particular amphora, which is just a giant vase or vase that men would drink at a large symposium or male drinking party. And I will link that picture in the show notes. It's quite beautiful and surprising that it is so old. So that's my tale.
That's your tale
of Achilles.
Nice.
A tragedy, a Greek tragedy.
A Greek tragedy.
As it were. An oldie but a goodie.
It is always a goodie.
I wanted to shout out my mythology teacher, Mrs. Tharp, from the 8th grade. You were my favorite teacher. I still remember your flip and dip. Crack me up every time.
Do you want to rattle off the next few themes that we have queued up?
In the month of October, we're probably going to do spooky stuff. So if anybody has any good ghost stories, any good kind of like creepy, spooky kind of fun stories, let me know. At some point, I'm going to call this out now because I want to do it. At some point, we're going to do serial killers or hometown murders. Anybody got a good hometown murder? Let us know. I want to know desperately. And also, at some point, we're going to do UFOs. So, anybody seen one? Marfa Lights down in Texas. Area 51. Roswell, New Mexico. Give it to us.
Yeah, it'd be great if we can hear some of your own tales. And even more great if we could share them in this podcast so that others can hear your stories as well.
We would love to.
So that we're not just talking to ourselves.
We would love to, because I know a few people that have some contributions, but we're always looking for others as well.
Yeah, and it would just be really fun to get some audience participation too.
We want to hear from you.
We're playing Wikipedia roulette. I found my random article.
Give it to me.
This article is titled "Forever Abomination."
Is that a band?
Yes. Well, no, yes and no. It's the 4th album by American extreme metal band Skeleton Witch. It's also the first album to feature drummer Dustin Balches. The album was released October 7th, 2011.
Yes! What is it called?
They're a thrash metal, melodic and death metal album.
Oh my gosh. Forever Abomination?
Forever Abomination is the name of the album. And Skeleton Witch, all one word, is the name of the band. All right, well, I've been Kendall Runquist.
You been?
I've been. I'm no longer.
Well, I've been Dolly Parton.
It's late again, and it's been a very long week at work. I can't talk.
Can I be Dolly Parton?
I'm Kendall Rehnquist.
I'm Logan Runquist.
This has been Tales of Plenty.
Yes, sir.
And we hope you've enjoyed the episode. And we'll see you on the next one.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Flippity flip.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.